Hey, what's up, everyone? This is the SBS Report, the Cornell Sports Business Society's new radio show. We are live from the Oberman Cornelius studio on East Buffalo on CornellRadio.com. I'm Matt Hakimi, and I'm here with
David Wexler.
Ethan Kramer-Gibbs. Happy to be here. Happy to talk some sports with you guys.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Great. Couldn't be happier. Day of football. Ready to go. Ready to get after it.
Hopefully the Jets can come back on these Packers for me. Then I'll be having a great day. But excited to be here talking some sports.
So a huge week in sports. A lot of stuff to get into, specifically with Week 2 of the NFL. A lot of off-the-field news in the NFL we'll get into as well. But first, let's go into some scores from today. We're going to start with the MLB. Earlier today, the Tampa Bay Rays beat the Toronto Blue Jays 6-5 in 10 innings. The Cleveland Indians lost to the Detroit Tigers 6-4, with the Tigers opening up a game-and-a-half lead in the AL Central on top of the Kansas City Royals. The Nationals beat the Mets 3-0. The Marlins beat the Phils 5-4. The Pirates beat the Cubs 7-3. The Twins beat the White Sox 6-4. The Red Sox beat the Kansas City Royals 8-4. Milwaukee beat Cincinnati 9-2. St. Louis defeated Colorado 4-1. And Texas beat Atlanta 10-3. Houston topped the Angels 6-1. And the Dodgers defeated division rival San Francisco 4-2. Do you go now on to the NFL?
So in the 1 o'clock games already that finished, we had on Thursday night, the Ravens beating the Steelers 26-6. The Bengals today beat the Falcons 24-10. The Panthers beat the Lions 24-7. Browns over the Saints 26-24. The Patriots stomping on the Vikings 30-7. The Cardinals beating the Giants 25-14. Cowboys beating the Titans 26-10. The Bills beating the Dolphins 29-10. And the Redskins beating the Jaguars 41-10.
Moving along to the 4 o'clock games currently in progress. We got the Broncos up 21-17 with 5 minutes to go. Should be a great ending. Texans against the Raiders. Texans are almost shutting them out 30-7. Jets, Packers, pretty close one. Packers are up 7, 31-24 with pretty much heading into the fourth quarter. And then Seahawks, Chargers. Probably no one's expected this. Chargers are up 27-21 late in the fourth quarter. And Rams are down 13-14 to the Bucs. And we got the 49ers and Bears tonight, which should be a great one.
Yep. So a lot of off-the-field news this week in the NFL, and really what's been going on, what's really been dominating the world of sports is the whole Ray Rice situation. This situation really came to light in the middle of last season, the off season, where Ray Rice was arrested for domestic violence, and initially after review he was only suspended for 2 games, and there was great public outcry from throughout the league, throughout sports, and throughout really just society in general. Almost, it was quite frankly, it was ridiculous, and Commissioner Goodell and the NFL got bashed big time for it. And this past Monday, TMZ released a video that really, I guess, put into perspective exactly what went down in the elevator that night. And the video, I'm sure a lot of our viewers, and I'm sure Ethan and Dave have seen it. It was, quite frankly, it was disgusting. We all saw Ray Rice knocked out his then girlfriend, his then fiance, now wife. And immediately the Ravens cut him and the NFL suspended him indefinitely. But afterwards, there's a lot about how there's been a lot of things going on about how Commissioner Goodell and the NFL did not do their due diligence in the initial 2-game suspension, and now they're trying to cover up what appears to be a terrible, terrible situation that the commission has gotten himself into. I guess, what do you guys make of this whole situation?
My first comment, my question to you is, what did the NFL and what did anyone else think happened in that elevator? Everyone saw the video this summer of her being dragged out of the elevator, and it was clear what had happened. In my opinion, the NFL, everyone must have known what had happened in that elevator. The TMZ video just really confirmed that. My question is, the NFL obviously had to know, so it's just reactionary for them to now be doing all these extra suspensions when they should have done it initially.
Well, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to go forward and handle this. Someone's going to be let go inside the NFL offices, especially if they find that the video was sent there months prior. But I think there's no one happier that it's Sunday right now than the NFL is. Boy, did they have a rough week, and now, thank God it's Sunday for them because they can focus on their product and what makes them so popular because they need some good some good PR for themselves. But yeah, so I think it all really comes down to when the video who's seen the video inside the NFL's office. Obviously, it was not handled the correct way, and it's going to be interesting to see if Ray Rice, ever plays another snap in this league.
I mean, every single Monday, I guess people are excited to see highlights, big plays, big hits from the week that was in the NFL, and then for TMZ to release this video to start off the week, and there's really just a black cloud surrounding the league over the course of the last week. And my real question is, does anybody buy the fact the NFL and Commissioner Goodell have never seen this video?
No. They must have seen the video. They're doing their internal investigation, which I think is kind of funny. What are they going to find? They 100% saw the video, and this is just my opinion. Roger Goodell's not going to be the commissioner at the end of this season.
The NFL is far and away the most popular sports league in this country, and the amount of revenue that the league is making, how much Commissioner Goodell is making, it's unbelievable. And I find it extremely, extremely hard to believe that one of the most powerful organizations in this country does not have the kind of access to see a video that TMZ was able to see. So I find that extremely hard to believe, and I think that's BS. Quite frankly, I think that's BS. But there's a lot to make of the situation with the Associated Press and ESPN's Outside the Lines. We're coming up with various reports over the last week stating that the NFL did in fact receive the video, and there was an individual from the league office who confirmed that Commissioner Goodell had seen the video. So, this definitely doesn't bode well, and this has all the writing of a cover-up to me. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting because I think they obviously know they screwed up, and I bet at the end of the day we'll find out that someone has seen the video. I'm not sure if Goodell himself has seen it, but at the same time, if anyone in the NFL offices have, Goodell should be responsible for seeing that. So I agree with what David said. Someone's at least got to go. It will probably end up being Goodell because it's just the right PR move for the owners. But I think going forward, it's interesting that the NFL hasn't really set a precedent yet for whether it's a team issue or if it's an NFL-wide issue. So today, the Panthers sacked Greg Hardy, but the 49ers played Ray McDonald. If you guys don't know, both of them have they haven't been found guilty yet, but there have been two incidents of domestic violence. So I'm not sure. What do you guys think? Do you think it's a team issue? The team should be responsible to discipline them, or the NFL is responsible?
This isn't. Well, prior to the whole Ray Rice situation, this wasn't written into the collective bargaining agreement. So that's why there was a lot of public outcry when the commission only suspended Ray Rice for 2 games. And now I guess to cover that up immediately, they came up with the new policy. They came up with the new domestic violence policies of only, I think it was 6 games for one indication, and then I think it was for the entire career.
I thought it was season for 2, career for 3. Or was it 2?
It was 2 for. I think it was 1 for 6. Sure. 1 would be a 6-game ban, and 2 was for the career. But you had the option to be reinstated after 1 year, pending good behavior, things of that nature. So it was more so it was I guess an indefinite suspension. Yeah. But I guess quickly going back, for something like this to happen, it's under the authority of Goodell, even if I guess it isn't necessarily his fault. It's negligent. It's negligent on many fronts for something like this to take place under him, and whether or not he's lying, what is the motive for a cover up? I guess we won't know. We don't know now, and this internal investigation, chances are, won't reveal much else, especially with the fact that Goodell hired the head of the investigation. So,
just going
back to Greg Hardy and Ray McDonald and domestic violence over the landscape of the league. Or after playing Greg Hardy last week, the Panthers, did receive a lot of criticism, and I guess they made the right decision today, but I guess it's almost hypocritical because, after the game, head coach Ron Rivera said that, we expect him to be playing next week. So I don't know how to make of it. They looked horrible in letting him play, as did the Niners and letting Ray McDonald play, although they are two slightly different situations. But David, you said you were going to add something?
Just going back to something Ethan was saying earlier, which is we talk about the outcry and how everyone is so against the NFL right now, but it is Sunday and everybody watched football today. So, I mean, there's just such a big outcry, and I think it's terrible what the NFL did, but I'm still going to watch football. So it's tough because how do we really punish the NFL when it's just the most popular sport?
Exactly. I mean, their on-the-field product is just far and away better than I guess the three other major sports in this country especially. I mean, around the world, I'm not necessarily sure, but the game is definitely becoming more popular internationally, but in this country, in the fall and winter, there's only one sport that reigns supreme, and that's football. I guess building off, some other suspensions around the league. On Friday, it was revealed that the Minnesota Vikings deactivated Adrian Peterson for this Sunday's game against New England, and it was revealed that Adrian Peterson was indicted for a child abuse charge, and he did go to jail on Friday evening, although he was released on bond right away. But, I mean, this situation in and of itself, I know some of my friends and some other people, some things I read on Twitter, down with Goodell, the commission after this, but this is completely unrelated to the Ray Rice situation, domestic violence, but the fact that it's happening at the same time definitely doesn't look good. And Commissioner Goodell's whole thing is about his main job is protecting the shield of the league, protecting the integrity of the National Football League, and for something like this to happen to one of the league's most premier players, it definitely doesn't look good at all. So, I mean, I think the Vikings, in making the decision that they did and immediately taking action and suspending him suspending for this game, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I think they definitely made the right decision right away. But what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I think for Adrian Peterson's sake, his incident happened at the worst possible time for him. I mean, there's no way, obviously, that should never happen ever, but there's no way the league can get away without coming down severely hard on Adrian Peterson on this issue just because it happened right after this Ray Rice incident, and they are under such hot fire. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they handle this. Adrian Peterson, he's one of the faces of the leagues. Everyone knows him. He's a real star. And so, they're going to have to make an example out of him and show the rest of the world and the media that's coming after them right now that, they're taking these things seriously and, having no tolerance policy.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. There's no way that the outcry and the punishment would be as much if this didn't happen at the same time as the Ray Rice scandal. I think what Adrian Peterson did was terrible, and he would have been punished, but these are my personal beliefs, I don't think you can compare what he did to what the Ray Rices and Greg Hardys did. It is completely separate, and I think Peterson got the short end of the stick because of the timing, and the NFL now has to come down harder on him. I think it's smart that he sat out this game. I'm unsure. I think he might play again this season. What do you guys think?
I mean, they said it's a week-to-week thing, and they're not necessarily sure. I mean, there was a report about not a report, but there was I forgot who the writer was, but I read a piece about how there was some individual who was supporting the Vikings cutting all ties with AP, but I think that's a bit until more information is revealed on what exactly did transpire. And I mean, he's yet to have.
What information do we know?
We know that there was a report how he used a stick to abuse a child in public, his son in public, and he apparently, I think his lawyer is claiming that it's what he was, I guess, brought up learning. He grew up in a house where he was disciplined by his parents. So.
Yeah, they said that his parents used to do the same thing to him as he was growing up, so that was kind of his reasoning for doing it.
I mean, I'm not condoning something like that.
Yeah,
and
obviously.
We're not condoning child abuse in any way, shape, or form. But I mean, I don't think we have enough personal information. There's yet to be an actual hearing. So Minnesota's in a tough spot, and I doubt the NFL will, with the turmoil that's gone on in the league offices right now with the whole Ray Rice situation. I doubt the NFL will take action anytime soon. With being that with almost anything, they're extremely slow to make a decision, whether it's I think it was like the Josh Gordon suspension took for it's becoming a little bit ridiculous. So I doubt anything will come down from the NFL, but I mean, for this foreseeable future, it really wouldn't surprise me if the Vikings continue to hold AP out. Obviously, coming 2 seasons ago with that historic season from AP, he's far and away their most valuable player, but they're going to miss him a great deal on the field. But, I mean, they almost don't have a choice. The timing, as you mentioned, is really unfortunate. It sucks that something like this would take place during a time where the league is under the fire that they are, but yeah. I don't see how Minnesota can. There would be so much criticism if Minnesota just decided to activate him next week without any really like updates with the situation. But I don't think they have any other choice.
So do you think he'll play again this season?
I want to say yes, but I wouldn't surprise me if we don't.
All right, what do you think, Ethan?
I don't know. There's no real precedent that's been set by the league for something like this because I don't think it's really happened before. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays again. However, there will be some discipline. I think like he's too big of a star that the Vikings as a franchise rely on him so heavily because he is the face of their franchise, and I think it's kind of gone a little bit under the radar because of this whole Ray Rice thing. So I think they could get away with suspending him for a couple of games, although that's probably not what they're going to end up doing because of all this PR pressure.
I don't think the team itself is going to announce like a certain suspension. If anything, that's under the league's jurisdiction to come out and give a specific number as to how many games a player misses. But I mean, preventing him from coming to like from participating in team activities, from games, things of that nature, I feel is like the more obvious or like what the more realistic situation. So I don't think they're gonna come out and announce a certain length at the moment, just because like they should really just let the situation play out, and while keeping him out of practice. But it is unfortunate that this is happening to one of the best players in the league, one of the most like known players to all sports fans, really. So I really don't know. I don't know what's in store for him.
And this is just such a bad time for the NFL. Goodell is done. There's no way that through all this stuff that he's gonna make it through it.
I would probably have to agree. Chances are it's going to be some Cornell alum that replaces him with the way the other major sports have been going. But I mean, I don't know. If Goodell were to go down and it would be in the middle of the season, obviously they wouldn't. I would assume that the league wouldn't go and immediately hire a permanent successor. It would be someone on an interim basis, some individual with plenty of experience with the league. But we'll see where that goes. Obviously, the AP situation isn't it can't be Goodell's fault, but because that's just a completely different situation.
Yeah, but it'll be put on him. That's just public opinion.
But I agree. I think Goodell should go, but I don't think that's necessarily going to happen because I think the owners would have already canned him if that was the case. Like, the easiest move for the owners to get out of all this bad media is to fire Goodell. Put all the blame on him, get him out of there. But there's a reason why they haven't done that yet and they're holding on to him is because he's actually, the owners value him and think he's done a really good job. We all know he's screwed up in this situation, and I'm not saying he shouldn't be fired, but I'm just saying that there is a reason why it hasn't happened yet, and that might be because the owners do have his back. So I think it is a real possibility that he's not going, but I think someone else will be going.
But I think the media attention is just going to continue to pick up. I think the owners don't want to fire him or get rid of him, but I think the public opinion is going to force them to make. They're going to have to just to save their image.
I mean, I kind of agree, but even today, nothing on SportsCenter was about Ray Rice except for on Thursday before the Ravens game. But this morning, it was only about the games, and I think as time goes on, it's going to be focusing about football, and we'll probably the media will die down on calling for Goodell's head or something like that.
All right. I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of talking about off the field issues like this, and we obviously prefer to talk about more on field performance, but with the amount of things that have gone down in the league this week, I guess we almost don't have a choice. So we are live from the Overman Cornelius studio on CornellRadio.com. in College Town on East Buffalo Street. I'm Matt Hakimian in here with David and Ethan this week. So let's go over one other NFL topic. So a little bit of good news. So the Buffalo Bills actually had a very good week. Aside from today, where they defeated the Miami Dolphins and now they're 2-0 after beating Chicago last week. I guess like their most known player, Hall of Famer quarterback Jim Kelly, was announced that he's cancer-free, and the team finally has a new owner. Earlier this year, longtime owner Ralph Wilson, who the stadium is actually named after, passed away. So the family decided to sell the team, and they found apparently a great suitor in Terry Pagula, the owner of the Buffalo Sabres, who, from everything I've read, he's apparently a very, very good owner, someone who obviously has experience in upstate New York after being currently serving as the owner of the Buffalo Sabres, but someone who the fans know, the fans appreciate, someone who knows the area well, probably has a good sense of the team. I think it's great news for the Bills, and to me, it was reported that the Bills were sold to Pagula for $1.4 billion. They were estimated to be, I think it was worth just under $1 billion. They were valued at. So obviously a bit of an overbuy, but I feel like that's almost the trend in sports nowadays. With I guess the most recent example,
it's a great time to own a sports franchise.
The most recent example, obviously, is the Los Angeles Clippers with being sold to Steve Ballmer after the whole Donald Sterling fiasco. They were sold. I believe the Clippers were sold for $2 billion. So, I guess with an organization obviously you have the Clippers. That's a team that's in LA. With New York, the two biggest markets in the country. So, as opposed to a team in the National Football League in Buffalo, New York. But with what do you guys make of I guess the rising valuations, the rising cost of teams? Obviously the NFL is the major sports league. So the fact that the Buffalo Bills are being sold for $1.4 billion, how much can we say a team like the Steelers or the Cowboys or the Giants or the Packers, it's getting unbelievably expensive to own a team.
Yeah, well, first off, I'm all about the Bills these days. We got to watch them every day on Sunday because, Ithaca, the Bills are their team. So I'm bleeding blue for the Bills today.
You always bleed blue, Gibbs.
I always bleed blue. But no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. But, these sports franchises, Clippers, Bills, these are toys for all these owners. These owners have made their money and, they're big sports fans and they're trying to get involved. They're not investments really, more so for them to, own the team, have fun owning the team. I know Ballmer was a big Clippers fan, so that's why he went in and spent. He knows he's not gonna make a profit off buying the Clippers for $2 billion, and I'm not sure if the guy for the Bills will, but I don't know. I think it's all about it's fun for them. It's not about revenue.
It's an interesting balance though, because a lot of these owners are making money. You can see how valuable sports franchises are right now. For when they sell, they're selling for a ridiculous amount of money. So I think it's an interesting balance, and it's different for every owner and organization. The balance of trying to make profits and trying to have fun and win games. I can attest to being a huge New York Mets fan, and sometimes it doesn't feel like the Mets are trying to put out necessarily their best product. It's more about, it seems like making profit for an organization like the Mets. Whereas I think for each team, there's just a delicate balance for the owners of having fun, treating it like their toy, while also, these guys have a lot of money, but they also love their money. So they're not in it to lose any money.
Exactly. And I guess building off that, I guess the most recent example we mentioned in the NBA was the whole Donald Sterling fiasco, and then something actually came up it was reported last Sunday that part owner of the Atlanta Hawks, Bruce Levinson, would announce that he was selling his share of the team due to a racist email that he himself confessed to sending earlier. I think it was last year. So with all that went down with Donald Sterling and that whole mess about the whole mess about him being suspended for life and having to sell the team to former Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer, I mean, the whole situation, I guess I commend Levinson for coming out and acknowledging it himself, unlike Sterling, who I think to this day will deny that he's a racist, which is a joke. Yeah. But the whole, what exactly transpired with Bruce Levinson and now with Danny Ferry, and Danny Ferry is the general manager, and he's now on an indefinite leave after it was revealed that he made a remark about how while they were evaluating potential free agents this offseason, he referred to Luol Deng by saying that he has a little African in him. That is derogatory on so many different levels. But what do you think Ferry should resign?
He's got to go. In a league in which people of color, let's say, make up 70% of the league, there's no tolerance for that kind of language, especially from a GM who works so closely with players and hiring and managing the team. So I think it's not even a question that he's got to be out of there. There's no place for that in the NBA at all.
Well, Matt, you were saying you commend him for kind of self-reporting his racism.
I'm not commending the racism.
No. But the self-reporting, I mean, I'm of the school of thought that he knows how much NBA franchises are going for right now. He wanted a reason to sell. It makes him look bad, but gives him a reason to sell, and he's about to get paid.
That's interesting. That's really.
I mean, I read an article about this. It's obviously it doesn't make him look good, but if he wanted to sell and needed an excuse to sell, this is a good way for him to do it. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's a good point. Like I don't know if me personally, if I'm in that position, I don't know if I'd want to put my name out in the media for that reason. Like, I think it's too damaging, and I think there are other ways to go about trying to sell the team. However, I mean, it's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought about that, so yeah, why not? I mean, it's NBA teams they're going for such high prices. Why not cash out now?
It's funny because Donald Sterling, when he bought the Clippers, I don't have the exact year that was in front of me, but I think it was in the range of $13 million, and he reluctantly sold the team for $2 billion. Every single owner of a NBA franchise or a sporting franchise in general, these guys are brilliant businessmen. They wouldn't be in the positions that they are to buy a team like that without being smart businessmen in their lifetimes. So Dave definitely brings up a very, very interesting point in the fact that maybe he wants to sell high. We don't know how with the Clippers selling for what they did, and I believe before that the last team to sell were the Milwaukee Bucks, which sold for just under $1 billion, I think it was. So, I mean, it's Milwaukee. Milwaukee, right? We're talking Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So, I mean, Atlanta is a relatively big market, and I know he's not obviously the full owner of the team, but I don't have the number in front of me as to when he first purchased his share, how much he bought it for, but I'm sure that if he does sell his team anytime soon, he'll get a relatively great investment on his initial a great return on his initial investment. So that is a very, very interesting point, and I would have to definitely think that definitely came across his mind. That's something that he definitely considered when he first announced that he would be selling his share.
Yeah, while we're talking about how lucrative the sports business world is, I just wanted to bring something up that's maybe a little bit off topic, but Kevin Durant recently, it's been in the news about Under Armour and Nike fighting for his rights. And so Nike finally won that battle. And I just wanted to make this point quickly that it's interesting now that Kevin Durant could say that Nike's his main employer instead of Oklahoma City Thunder. And that has such ramifications for all other things. Just for example, if Nike's his main employer, and the NBA outlaws NBA players playing in the Olympics, Nike could overrule that because they want to get their brand out there, so they could let Durant play in the Olympics. So I think going forward, that's something these leagues are going to have to consider because technically Durant's being paid more by Nike than he is by the Thunder. So,
But I mean, we talked about this last week on the show, so we don't have to go into that much detail.
Yeah.
But there has to be something in the contract that says his team gets to make that decision, not Nike, right? There's no way that the Nike and the team will disagree. It is an interesting thought, though. We talked about it, so I don't want to talk about it too much. But it is interesting that he is now getting paid more by his shoe deal than by his team.
I mean, with the collective bargaining agreement written the way it is, there is a cap on the amount of salary that a player can make, and LeBron James wisely took a 2-year max extension from not max extension, but he signed a 2-year max deal with the Cavs to come back, knowing that chances are in 2 years with the new television agreement in sight, and with a new CBA where after the previous one where the owners completely dominated the players, which is a completely different discussion. But I mean, hopefully we're assuming that in the next collective bargaining agreement there will be if there is a cap on the amount of money that a player can make, it will be much higher than what it is right now. So you definitely bring up a really good point there, Ethan. But I mean, yeah, I'm really interested to see what the Hawks ultimately sell for.
yeah.
So it could be. I mean, they are they had not a very, very successful franchise over the course of the last decade, but they've made a few playoff runs over the last decade, and they're a good, relatively big market. So
Atlanta's a big market.
It definitely won't sell for the $2 billion that the Clippers got, but I wouldn't definitely. I would assume that it would sell for more than what the Milwaukee Bucks got earlier this year. So, I mean, you mentioned we were talking about Kevin Durant's decision to stay with Nike over Under Armour, and I want to go on to arguably the 1A and 1B in terms of the best players in the league right now, LeBron James. So earlier in the summer, everybody knows that he is now a Cleveland Cavalier. He's a Cleveland Cavalier once again. So earlier today, Kyrie Irving in the FIBA World Cup actually won MVP in what a lot of people are heading into the tournament were excited that, all right, so it's going to be USA-Spain final. The final's in Spain. All these players like Durant, like Griffin, like Love, they're not playing for the U.S. They have no big men, no LaMarcus Aldridge. Maybe Spain can give them a shot at home, but Spain didn't get there. And the USA, to most people's, well, very few people's surprise, completely blew away the competition. And speaking on the Cavs, so earlier this week, ESPN's Darren Ravel wrote a piece about how the Cavs are instituting a lottery system for single game ticket sales this season. So I'm assuming over the last the last 4 years since LeBron left to take his talent to South Beach, the Cavs have somewhat struggled with fan attendance. Local restaurants, stores, businesses, almost obviously have not been doing as well as what they were when LeBron was there in his first stint. So with him being back and season tickets flying the way that they did, something like this, one part of me wants to say, like, who the heck does Dan Gilbert and the Cleveland Cavs think they are right now? Like, instituting this unprecedented policy of single game lottery system. But it makes sense. It's pretty damn smart. I don't know. What do you guys make of that?
I mean, demand in Cleveland right now is unbelievable for those tickets. The city is revitalized. I'm talking to people I know in Cleveland, and they say, oh, it's just a game, but literally people's lives in Cleveland are noticeably better now that LeBron is coming home. It's unbelievable. I guess I mean, Dan Gilbert's trying to make an extra buck. He's putting in this policy. The demand is high enough that he can do it. I think those tickets will be unbelievably hard to get, just like it was impossible to get Heat tickets that first year. It's an exciting time to be a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, but it'll definitely cost them a little bit of money to get those tickets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of this idea, just because, there's all this demand. Why are you putting it up for a chance? I'm not totally sure how it's gonna work. It's a lottery for people in terms of getting the right to buy the tickets. Am I right, Matt? Is that right?
Yes. So it's not like a site like StubHub, which is like a ticket resale site where individuals either buy season tickets or individual game tickets and they resell them on StubHub. But this is just to have the right to purchase a single game ticket to have the honor of seeing King James play this season. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's a bit ridiculous, but it is what it is.
I mean, it's pretty funny just to me because, like, I'm someone who I can't root for LeBron. Like, no matter what, like, I'm rooting against him. And I'm gonna enjoy this season so much rooting against the Cavs.
You're just a hater in general.
Yeah.
You don't like anyone. you have your 3 teams from random places, and you hate everything else and everyone. And
Of course. Well,
What are those 3 random teams?
Oh, I'm a big Packer fan. Green Bay Packer, Boston Red Sox, and Boston Celtics.
so before Gibbs goes in and gives you his reasons for those, just a quick update on that Packers-Jets game, which is Geno Smith and the Jets just stalled in Green Bay territory on 4th down. Green Bay ball up 7 with 3 minutes to go. Jets have no timeouts, so
We're looking good.
yeah, looking good for you. Not great for me. So let's.
It's poor clock management. The fact that they don't. I mean, I watched the beginning of the second half when Geno wasted a timeout with I think it was 14:50 left in this third quarter. So that's just so typical.
So typical. Being a Jets and Mets fan, you just see new ways to lose games every single day, and it's awesome.
I mean, thank God I'm a Yankee fan. I am a Jet fan, sadly, so I can feel you, but it's pretty rough.
It was doubly disappointing. I had a bet with Gibbs on this game. If the Jets had pulled it out, he would have had to go on a dating game show type thing at Cornell. Some sorority is hosting it, and he would have had to been the Bachelor. So
The Bachelor.
Thank God for the Pack, huh?
I mean, we'll see. Maybe there's still a chance. So not giving up hope.
I mean, with the Jets' run defense being what it is, then I think they've done a great job of containing Eddie Lacy this week. So hopefully they got to stop and they get the ball back. So, well, more importantly, so we can see Ethan do that. But I mean, let's talk about. I guess we are on CornellRadio.com, live from the College Town studio on East Buffalo Street. But enough NFL for now. Let's go on. Enough NFL, enough NBA. Let's go on to a quick story from Major League Baseball, and then right after that, we'll go into the scores from this weekend's some college football scores, some fantasy football updates from today, and we're going to take your Twitter questions. So please, please, please tweet us your questions at Cornell SBS. Tweet anything, any questions, concerns, comments. How do we sound? Are we doing good? Are we doing well? This is only our second radio show. Reviews, questions, anything. We'll address that live on air. We have a little over 20 minutes left, so let's get into this last story before we go back into scores for the day. So on Friday, came out that Chris Davis has been suspended immediately for 25 games for. They said at the time it was a performance-enhancing drug, but it came out that it was amphetamines, and I think specifically Adderall, which, I mean, amongst college students and, high school, even high school students, it's almost everyone knows what Adderall is. It's something that, it's a prescribed attention deficit disorder medication in which it allows individuals to focus at a much higher level than what they would ordinarily be able to. So, in most sports, and I think it's in every sports league that it's a banned substance. So
I think that's silly. I don't know. I mean, the people who make the drug policy obviously know this stuff better than I do. But if a player is taking Adderall, that's a lot different than taking steroids. I don't know.
I mean, I don't buy it though. I don't buy that
agree
it's
with you.
Adderall. I feel like nowadays when people test positive for amphetamines, their first go-to excuse is Adderall because I think they can get away with people thinking that that's okay, that it's socially acceptable. What was I going to say? It's their theory is that if they say it was Adderall, they won't be viewed as cheating as much. However, to me, I don't buy that it's Adderall. I buy that it's probably performance-enhancing drugs. And you know what? I want to say that I kind of saw this coming with Chris Davis. He was a very good prospect.
Yeah, you always say
up.
you see stuff coming after it happens, Gibbs.
No,
You can't just say, "Oh, I knew that was going to happen," and no one heard you say that a month
but I
ago.
said it to myself.
Yeah,
so
that doesn't count.
it counts for me.
it counts for him. That's all that matters.
All right, continue with whatever you were spewing over there, Gibbs.
I was just saying, I Davis was one of those candidates in which you would think he might be taking something because he started off unsuccessful, and then out of nowhere is hitting 50 home runs in a season. I thought the same thing with like Jose Bautista. Like he was on my list of players who came out of nowhere, already 28, and started hitting bombs. But I don't know. That's just me.
It's interesting too. The O's, they just keep on winning. They've had a bunch of injuries this year. They've had a bunch of I guess now with Chris Davis, but they're still in first place. Their magic number is 4 to clinch the AL East. I don't know how realistic of a shot do you think they have in the postseason?
They'll clinch the East any day now. But I mean, Buck Showalter, since he's got to Baltimore, has done a hell of a job with that team. Coming from really over the last decade, they've been horrible. So I mean, Buck Showalter right away turned the team around. 2 years ago, they lost to the Yanks in 5 games in the ALDS, and last year I think they were above 500. They had a good year, but they didn't make the playoffs last year, right?
They did not.
The Red Sox were the only team that came out of the AL East that year.
The Rays also.
The Rays won wild. Yeah, they were one of the wild card teams. I forgot about that. So, I mean, since Buck has got there, he's done a heck of a job with that team, and I mean, I'm gonna have to agree with Ethan. I would if I don't want to like speculate or anything, but if I were to really get, I don't. The MLB doesn't release exactly what it was that he tested negative for, or tested positive for. Sorry, but someone can't just go from. I mean, he always had some potential. I know he was a highly touted prospect, and he always had a lot of like raw power apparently. And the year before, I think he hit 30. I think it was 32 or 33 home runs. But last year, all of a sudden, he became the most feared slugger in the game, and that just doesn't happen overnight. Like someone just can't wake up and all of it. Like this is the one name I'm going to drop. I'm not going to go around the league and saying all these guys who I think may potentially be on performance enhancing drugs, but like someone like Jose Bautista, I don't buy I like practice or I think Bautista's thing was like my eye vision is better, so it's. I don't buy it. I mean, Chris Davis robbed Miguel Cabrera of back-to-back Triple Crowns last year as Miggy finished second in home runs. So, say Chris Davis didn't have the year that he had last year. Miguel's already going to go down as one of the greatest pure hitters of his generation. But like back-to-back Triple Crowns after it not taking place for such a long time, it would really be unfortunate if he was on performance-enhancing drugs last year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to change anything about Cabrera's legacy, though. He'll still be thought of as the best hitter of this generation. It is unfortunate if the reason he didn't get 2 straight was because of someone taking performance-enhancing drugs, but I don't think it affects Cabrera's legacy in any way.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm like so over baseball at this point. Just like growing up in the generation of steroids, like everything has been proven. Like it's not a sport I can trust. Like, when my team is not doing well, I know this sounds like a fair weather fan. I just, like, have no care for baseball. However, on the flip side, when my team's doing well, there's nothing more fun to follow.
Yeah, you were loving baseball at this time last year.
Yeah, no, last year when the Sox were good, it was, like, the best, like, time of my life. But this year, I just haven't been able to get into it, really. But I do think, like, for our generation, growing up in this area, in this era, has changed my perspective of baseball. I also don't like. To me, I like when the stars are like consistently the best players. In baseball, I feel like a star like will have a good season one year and then the next year will not be like the same. Yep. And for me, I don't know why. Like I can't really pinpoint why, but I like knowing like that. Like it just seems to me like anyone could be good at any time. They just gotta get hot.
I mean, it's 162 game season. Everyone's due for a 3-hit night.
Yeah.
I don't know. Mike Trout though, he's
the real deal.
The past 3 years just unbelievable. Gonna hopefully finally win his MVP this year.
There's no doubt.
Yeah, he's special.
Yeah, no, he's definitely special. He'll probably go down one day as one of the greatest.
Did you get to watch Clayton Kershaw go against him?
No, I didn't see that.
That was this summer. It was. Yeah. I mean, Kershaw is just as dominating as Trout is on the offensive end. Just
Kershaw more
pitching.
So, yeah.
Kershaw is
He's been
unbelievable.
lights out.
If you have to
Lights
pick
out.
one player to start a franchise with, I'm taking Kershaw.
All right, so I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this time every year, it's just, really in August, like I just get tired of watching baseball. I mean, it's such a long season, and it gets exciting as October approaches, but like,
Yeah, the dog days.
enough baseball for the show today. So let's move on to what most people want to hear. It's fall. Football is back. Everyone is happy. Everyone's excited. Everyone has things to do on Saturday and Sunday afternoons, nights. Football is awesome. Everyone loves football. Football's back. And let's go over, I guess, the week 3 in college football. Let's go over some, I guess, there were a couple of upsets, but let's go over some quick scores. We're not going to read you like every single top 25 team, but we'll read you a couple of the more intriguing matchups from this past weekend. In an SEC matchup, South Carolina at home defeated Georgia 38-35. There was a lot of controversy in that game as Georgia, they stumbled at the goal line, missed a field goal, and then there was a very highly debated on South Carolina had the ball on 4th down. There was a quarterback sneak, and the refs gave the Gamecocks the first down, but I mean, it appeared that the ball was short of the first down markers, but it is what it is, and the Gamecocks did come out on top, defeating SEC rival Georgia 38-35. And some other scores: number 2 Oregon, number 3 Alabama cruised, had no problem in their matchups. Number 1 Florida State was idle this past week. Texas A&M won big. Kenny Hill continuing to do
Kenny Trill.
Kenny Trill, excuse me. There was a funny report that his parents were also excited by the potential nickname Kenny Trill. So I guess we're going to have to talk about Johnny Manziel's replacement. We're going to have to start referring to him as Trill from now on. So whenever you hear his name on this show going forward, he'll be referred to as simply Trill. Number 9 USC was upset in BC, 37-31. USC looked really good the first couple of weeks of the season, and I know I was a little high on them after they went into Palo Alto last week and beat Stanford. So that USC losing in BC was a bit of a surprise, but I mean, other than that, there weren't that many. I don't think there were any big Virginia Tech was technically an upset, losing at home to East Carolina, but not a very eventful week in college football.
Besides that, South Carolina won. Wasn't that many exciting games?
No, not at all.
That South Carolina game was crazy, though. When they marked that football and looked down, and no one could tell if it was a first down. I'd never seen anything like that in a sports event. Like, everyone was confused. I actually think they got the call right, but it really could have gone either way. I don't know, and I agree with you, Matt. USC looked really good in the first 2 weeks, but I don't think they showed up really at a decent BC team who really came to play. Especially, I don't know if you guys got to see that red bandana video on the BC player who was involved in 9/11. It was like truly an amazing story. Brought tears to my eyes, and I guess BC did it for him, which is a pretty cool story. But yeah, it was kind of a down Saturday for college football.
Right. I mean, it wasn't nearly as eventful as the first couple of weeks were, but
Exactly.
So let's move on to the NFL. Week 2, a lot of great matchups today, and early in the 1 o'clock games, there were a few big injuries that could potentially change the landscape of, the NFC specifically, with RG3 going down and Kirk Cousins coming in relief, which this is probably like the 4th or 5th time he's had to do this in I think it's his 3rd year now in the league.
He was drafted the same year.
He looked really good, and watch the Redskins. New head coach Jay Gruden said specifically this offseason, there is no QB controversy. RG3 is our guy, but on like a freak play, RG3 apparently dislocated his ankle. So the chance, unless something miraculous happens and there's something with the MRI or the X-rays or the next day or so that says it's not a dislocation, nothing is broken there, chances are we won't be seeing RG3 for the remainder of the season. So I mean, after the way his magical rookie year ended the way that it did, coming off a torn ACL, and then last year just didn't look like the same guy. It's unfortunate that his season already has to end after 1 week. So,
I mean, I'm curious to see what his career looks like from here.
Right.
He had that great rookie year, the freak injury. Last year was a wash. He was pretty bad last year. They said there wasn't a controversy, but I don't know. He definitely did not have a great year, and then this. I don't know if he's starting for the Redskins in 2015.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Cousins performs, because if Cousins performs like he did today, there's going to be people calling for him to be the starter next.
Well, he'll get his chance now. He'll have the season right now.
Now that Cousin has the season, I'm a believer that RG3 might be done. Like, I don't think he can stay healthy. He'll obviously try and make a comeback, but I feel like he's just one of those guys who's prone to injuries. In college, he missed a full season as well, and then you add on everything that's happened to him. It's like the NFL is not suited for quarterback to take hits, and I don't think he's learned how to kind of avoid those hits. Like, I think Russell Wilson does a really good job of being smart about it,
Right.
and I don't think that RG3 has adapted to that yet.
I mean, Russell Wilson and Colin Kaepernick specifically, they know they're both almost maybe just as fast as RG3 is, but they know first off, they know how to slide, which the fact that RG3 can't properly protect himself when he rolls out of the pocket, it's almost embarrassing. It's almost like it can't be that hard of a skill, but RG3 just he never, even his rookie year, there was a lot made out of the fact that he did not know how to properly slide. So the way Ethan mentioned Russell Wilson, but even Colin Kaepernick, they're just so smart when they run. They know when they have to, when they shouldn't, when they should. So it's unfortunate for the Redskins. And Deshaun Jackson also came out of the game with a shoulder injury. So the Redskins did win big against the joke that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I mean, going forward, I mean, Kirk Cousins this is going to be his team for the rest of the season. So, I mean, and if who knows? Maybe he plays lights out and the Kirk Cousins era has finally begun in Washington. We'll have to see. So, I mean, another injury was AJ Green, who he was listed as probable and with a toe injury, and he apparently re-aggravated in the game today. So, I mean, the Bengals did top the Falcons, who a lot of people are high on this season. So the Bengals did top the Falcons at home today, but that could be a concern. As Andy Dalton, we know that he's limited as a quarterback, and he relies so heavily on an elite receiver in AJ Green. So
the Bengals are certainly one of those really sneaky good teams. Like, no one's talking about them. And just going back to AJ Green, it could be a really big loss if it's serious. I don't think it's too serious. I think it's a turf toe. But AJ Green's one of those guys who's so under the radar because of his personality and because he plays in Cincinnati. But he's right up there with the best of the wide receivers in the league. I mean, I think it's clear cut. Calvin's the best, but he's got to be second in line there.
Did you see his catch last week with a step back?
Yeah. Oh, he's so filthy. He's so good. But put him in a big market and people will be talking and really realize that. But because he's on the Bengals, he doesn't get the attention. But watch out for the Bengals. They're certainly playing good football.
A quick note on that turf toe. Is there a more aggravating injury to see as a fantasy football owner than one of your players having turf toe?
I think I read on Twitter right before that it was a ligament strain, and it wasn't turf toe. So that turf toe is a very lingering kind of injury. So for an AJ Green fantasy owner, that is big news. So, all right, we have 5 minutes left on the SBS report here on CornellRadio.com from the Oberman Cornelius Studios on East Buffalo Street in Collegetown. So for the next 5 minutes, we're going to give you the scores of the 4 o'clock games, a quick preview of Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, fantasy leaders from the day, Twitter questions, and our rapid-fire Final Four. So let's quickly go over the 4 o'clock games. All of the games have finished, and first off, the Texans defeated the Raiders 30-14. The Raiders look absolutely horrible, as they always do, and the Texans early in the season look like head coach O'Brien has them on the right track. J.J. Watt had a ridiculous pick six today, so after signing that massive contract, which we got into last week, he's unbelievable. So really a huge upset, surprising a lot of people. The Chargers defeated the Seahawks 30-21. So I mean, after their opening season defeat of the Green Bay Packers, a lot of people were saying the Seahawks have a shot to run the table this year, but Phillip Rivers stepped up today and had a big game, throwing for 284 yards and 3 TDs against the Legion of Boom. So the Chargers, they were at home this week, but they have the potential any given week that they can go out and beat any team. So Ryan Matthews did get hurt in the game, so we'll see where that goes moving forward. I think I read that it was potentially a sprained MCL, so that doesn't sound too great. The Broncos topped the Chiefs 24-17. The Chiefs are off to an 0-2 start after starting off. I think it was last season they started off like 9-0 or something. Yeah. So definitely not the start the Chiefs had in mind after Alex Smith, of course, signed that big offseason contract. Jamal Charles came out of the game with an ankle injury. So if they lose Charles, I'm going to say they are done. Yeah, Jamal, they rely so heavily on Jamal. So hopefully it's not too big of an injury with him. And Payton was Payton.
They rely heavily on Jamal, but they haven't really been giving him the ball that much. He got injured today, but last week they kind of abandoned the run game.
And then this last score, it's going to be sad to read off, but the Packers defeated the Jets 31-24 after the Jets had a 21-3 lead. We did not watch the game, but apparently the Jets were driving down 24-31 and in the red zone, and Geno threw a touchdown pass, and it was called back because the Jets called a timeout from the sideline.
Oh my God!
It doesn't get any more typical than that. Decker came out of the game. Hopefully, it's not too big of an injury, but it's so typical. So the Jets
will do to you.
The Jets are 1-1. The Packers are 1-1. The Saints are 0-2. Pretty crazy. They lost in the last second to the Cleveland.
There's nothing more annoying than when Ethan and his team wins, and we'll learn that as we talk more on Sundays this year. Right. But it's frustrating.
So
it's windy at the top.
All right, quickly, fantasy leaders from the day. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers, 346 yards, 3 TDs. Just destroyed the joke that is the Jets secondary. DeMarco Murray, huge day, 167 rushing yards and a touchdown. Jordan Nelson, 209 and a TD. So big day for Packers, big day for Green Bay. So let's take your Twitter questions real quick before we go into our Final Four. We have just about 2 minutes left on the show tonight. So from Matthew Peterson, I would love if you guys gave your thoughts on the Lakers' immediate future. So for whatever reason, I'm a big Los Angeles Lakers fan, and it sucks to see Kobe not being able to walk off the sunset, getting his 6th ring, matching MJ, but the chances of that happening this year are slim to none. It's painful to say that. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's looking great. I wouldn't get my hopes up. As a Celtic fan, I'm kind of in a similar position, but you never really know with the Lakers. So, they have the money to make trades and to kind of do what they want in the off season. So it'll be interesting in a couple years down the road what happens.
So we have a minute left. Let's just quickly go over the last couple questions. We're at Final Four, and then we'll wrap it up. Another quick question. Who's the most overpaid player in the league right now? Joe Flacco, no doubt.
Or Eli Manning.
Could be Manning.
A WNBA question. Is Diana Taurasi the GOAT? I honestly don't know. Probably.
Watching the WNBA finals was extremely exciting. I watched it together with Gibbs.
Great player.
I am on the WNBA bandwagon. It is a great organization. It's a great league.
Great time.
Yeah.
Games are intense. Always come down to the wire. Girls are into it. Why not?
We should get a WNBA team for Ithaca. We should make that charge. I would be willing to be the GM with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the final question. Why is Geno Smith so much worse than EJ Manuel? Because he's a Jet. The Final Four, quick questions. I'm going to fire questions at my two co-hosts today, Dave and Ethan. Quickly, will Roger Goodell be removed as commish?
Yes.
No.
Sunday Night Football, who you got? Bears, Niners?
Niners.
Bears.
Will Michael Sam play for the Cowboys this season?
No.
I think so. They're desperate. Their defense is a joke. Who will win the NL MVP? Is this even a question after Stanton got hurt?
I mean, I hated to see Stanton get hurt. I don't want anyone.
You give it to Kershaw, but I hate having pitchers win.
Clayton Kershaw, monster, best pitcher in baseball, not even close. It's not debatable.
I was gonna debate it, but they have a Cy Young Award for
Felix does not touch Kershaw. Okay, so with that being said, this is the SBS Report. That's all we have for you tonight. For Dave and Ethan, I'm Matt Hakimian. Everyone have an awesome week ahead. We'll see you next Sunday, 7 to 8 o'clock. Coming up next, Unnecessary Roughness. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.